In a political landscape increasingly characterized by generational divides, the Democratic National Committee (DNC) is grappling with internal tensions as it strives to maintain relevance among younger voters. Recent developments highlight a clash between traditional party structures and the rising influence of progressive activists, exemplified by the proposed rule changes from DNC Chair Ken Martin aimed at ensuring neutrality among party officers in primary elections. This initiative is particularly significant in the wake of DNC Vice Chair David Hogg's announcement of a $20 million investment to challenge what he describes as out-of-touch incumbents. During a conference call, Martin emphasized the importance of preserving voter trust. No DNC officer should ever attempt to influence the outcome of a primary election, whether on behalf of an incumbent or a challenger, he stated. Positioning the proposed rule changes as a means to ensure that the party remains a platform for democratic engagement rather than a gatekeeping entity. If these changes are ratified at the upcoming party meeting in August, Hogg would be faced with a choice: resign from the DNC or disentangle himself from the organization he co-founded, which champions a new wave of candidates challenging established figures. Hogg, a prominent voice among younger Democrats and a survivor of the tragic 2018 Parkland shooting, responded to the proposed changes by asserting that the DNC's focus should be on setting the presidential primary calendar and strengthening state parties. He underscored the necessity of providing a robust alternative to the Republican Party, especially as many young voters express dissatisfaction with the current political climate. "We have to show them how the party is changing and how we are fighting for them," Hogg remarked, highlighting the urgency of revitalizing the Democratic message to resonate with a disenchanted electorate. The backdrop of these tensions is a series of alarming polls that suggest a significant erosion of support for Democrats among young voters. A recent Harvard Kennedy School survey found that approval ratings for Congressional Democrats among Americans aged 18 to 29 have plummeted to 23%, down from 42% just 8 years ago. This decline is notable as Republicans have also seen a slight improvement in their standing among young voters, indicating a broader dissatisfaction with the political status quo. Critics within the party have voiced concerns that the leadership is failing to connect with a demographic that has historically leaned blue. Commentators like Brett Cooper argue that the Democratic establishment is aging out, leaving younger voters feeling alienated and unrepresented. This sentiment resonates with Hogg's assertion that the party is at a crisis moment and must adapt to the evolving demands of its base. "The division in our party right now is not so much, 'Are you on the left or are you in the center?' he stated. It is, 'Do you want to fight or do you want to roll over and die?'" In conjunction with these internal debates, the DNC is promoting a new initiative called Organize Everywhere, Win Anywhere, which aims to empower state parties through increased funding and resources. Each state party will receive a monthly boost, allowing for enhanced planning and candidate training ahead of elections. Martin, reflecting on the necessity of grassroots engagement, reiterated that the DNC cannot simply focus on a handful of battleground states but must reinvigorate its presence across the country. This push for reform comes as the party faces a daunting challenge: the potential return of Donald Trump to the presidential office. As the party navigates these turbulent waters, it must also contend with a growing perception among voters that it lacks an effective strategy and leadership. Analysts suggest that Democrats must shift from merely defending their values to actively challenging the Republican agenda, which has capitalized on anti-democratic sentiment among voters. As the DNC prepares for its critical August meeting, the outcomes of these discussions and proposed rule changes will likely play a pivotal role in shaping the party's future. The ongoing tug-of-war between the establishment and progressive factions within the party underscores a broader struggle for identity in an era defined by rapid change and rising expectations from younger voters. Moving forward, it will be essential for Democratic leaders to find common ground and articulate a compelling vision that resonates with a diverse electorate, particularly as the 2026 elections loom on the horizon. The stakes have never been higher, and the path forward will require a delicate balance between honoring the party's traditions and embracing the fresh perspectives of its emerging leaders. Donald Trump's latest initiative to solidify his legacy, a sweeping legislative package dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill, is set to challenge Republican unity in Congress as lawmakers grapple with its ambitious scope. As the House prepares to reconvene, the negotiations surrounding this bill promise to be anything but smooth, underscoring the complexities of party alignment amidst diverging interests. At the heart of Trump's proposal are extensions of tax cuts from his first term, enhanced border security measures, and significant reductions in government spending, particularly targeting social safety net programs. While many in the GOP view the bill as a vehicle to fulfill campaign promises, critics argue that it could lead to unprecedented deficits, potentially marking one of the steepest increases in U.S. history. House Speaker Mike Johnson has positioned the bill as a pathway to a golden age for America, emphasizing a vision of deregulation and smaller government. "Our aim is to deliver on our promises in this big, beautiful bill regarding things like border security, restoring peace through strength, and American energy dominance," Johnson stated earlier this month. However, the reality of crafting a consensus around such a sweeping bill is complicated by the party's slim majorities, only 3 seats in both the House and Senate, and the growing dissent among lawmakers wary of cutting programs that provide critical support to their constituents. The recent passage of a budget framework by Republican leadership, while hailed as a sign of party unity, has revealed underlying fractures. Bill Hoagland, a former top budget advisor, describes the situation as somewhat unprecedented, noting that unresolved differences between the House and Senate in terms of spending targets could hinder progress. He cautions that the current plan merely postpones critical decisions rather than resolving them. As Congress reconvenes, the economic landscape remains uncertain, exacerbated by Trump's inconsistent tariff policies. The proposed legislation aims to balance substantial tax cuts which predominantly benefit wealthier Americans with cuts to vital programs like Medicaid and Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program (SNAP). The Congressional Budget Office has projected that extending these tax cuts could significantly escalate the federal deficit, with estimates suggesting a potential increase of up to $5.8 trillion over the next decade. While Republican leaders have pledged to cut government spending by at least $1.5 trillion, they face opposition from within their ranks. A dozen lawmakers have expressed their unwillingness to support cuts to Medicaid, with others opposing the repeal of clean energy tax credits established during Joe Biden's administration. The sentiment among some Republicans reflects a recognition of the potential backlash from voters who depend on these programs, leaving party leaders to navigate a precarious balancing act. As the clock ticks towards an imminent deadline for raising the debt ceiling, projected to be reached by late summer, Republicans must work quickly to unify around a strategy that meets Trump's demands without alienating their base. The stakes are high, as failure to advance the bill could spark a financial crisis, further complicating the political landscape. With Trump reportedly threatening to support primary challengers for those who defy him, lawmakers find themselves at a crossroads. Should they align with the president or heed the concerns of their constituents? As Joe Morell, the number 2 Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, aptly puts it, when you want to cut $1.5 trillion, you're going to get to a lot of programs that people rely on. The outcome of these negotiations will not only shape Trump's legacy but also redefine the GOP's identity in the coming years. As the party grapples with internal divisions, the implications of their decisions will resonate far beyond Capitol Hill, impacting millions of Americans who rely on the social safety nets under threat. As Congress dives into a contentious debate, the political future hangs in the balance, with potential repercussions for the upcoming elections and the broader landscape of American governance. In a political landscape increasingly defined by division, Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton has announced her candidacy for the U.S. Senate, positioning herself as a staunch opponent of former President Donald Trump. On April 24, 2025, Stratton garnered the endorsement of the Pritzker family, a significant boost as she seeks to rally support ahead of the 2026 election. With her campaign focused on being a fighter against Trump's policies, Stratton aims to resonate with a voter base eager for change in a state where Democratic leadership is crucial. Stratton's entry into the race highlights a broader trend among Democratic candidates as they seek to mobilize against Trump's enduring influence. "We must stand firm against the forces that threaten our democratic values," Stratton stated, emphasizing her commitment to progressive ideals that advocate for equity, justice, and environmental sustainability. Her campaign comes at a time when the Democratic Party is reassessing its strategies in response to ongoing challenges posed by Republican candidates who have aligned themselves closely with Trump. Meanwhile, the political scene in Alabama is heating up as speculation grows around U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville's potential bid for the governorship. Tuberville's decision is pivotal as it would open up his Senate seat to a competitive race. Notable figures including former Alabama Secretary of State John Merrill and Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall are already positioning themselves as contenders. Marshall, who has expressed a keen interest in the Senate seat, stated, "If that seat comes open, I think we'll be prepared to pivot quickly." His sentiment reflects the urgency with which potential candidates are preparing for what promises to be a contentious primary. Polling data suggests Tuberville enjoys a favorable position within the Republican base, boasting a 74% approval rating among Alabama Republicans. Political analysts predict that should Tuberville run for governor, the ensuing Senate race could attract significant investment from self-funded candidates, as well as statewide elected officials. "We're looking at a long and expensive primary," said Brent Buchanan, CEO of Signal, emphasizing the unpredictable nature of the upcoming contests. In Georgia, the political climate is also shifting as Senator Jon Ossoff has indicated his support for impeachment proceedings against Trump. During a town hall meeting, Ossoff articulated concerns over Trump's conduct, stating that it has already exceeded any prior standard for impeachment. His comments reflect a growing sentiment among Democrats who feel that decisive action is necessary to counter Trump's influence. However, Ossoff tempered his support with a realistic assessment of the current political environment, acknowledging that effective impeachment efforts require a Democratic majority in the House. As these developments unfold, they underscore a critical juncture in American politics, where candidates are not only vying for seats but also grappling with the broader implications of Trumpism in their respective regions. With the 2026 elections on the horizon, both Republican and Democratic candidates are preparing for battles that will shape the future of their parties and the nation. As political affiliations solidify and campaigns gain momentum, the stakes could not be higher, suggesting that the upcoming months will be marked by intense political maneuvering and public engagement. As the political landscape in the United States continues to evolve under the new administration, the House Republican leadership has embarked on a significant budget proposal aimed at aligning with both party priorities and the directives set forth by President Trump. This initiative represents the largest policy undertaking of the current Congress, and its successful passage hinges on a complex parliamentary procedure known as budget reconciliation, which allows for expedited consideration of legislation relating to the federal budget. The groundwork for this budget package began with the approval of budget resolutions by both the U.S. House and Senate, setting the stage for a series of negotiations to refine spending levels. As Congress reconvenes on April 28, committees from both chambers are set to conduct hearings and markups which are essential to shaping the final text of the budget resolution. The ambitious target is to finalize this process by May 9, allowing the legislation to reach the President's desk prior to the Memorial Day recess. However, many observers question the feasibility of this timeline given the complexities involved in negotiating a budget that satisfies various factions within the Republican Party. Once the House drafts its version of the bill, it will move to the Senate for consideration. Under the reconciliation rules, the Senate will have the opportunity to amend the proposal before voting on it, also bypassing the usual 60-vote threshold required to overcome filibusters. This streamlined approach is critical for the Republicans who are aiming for a swift passage amid intensifying scrutiny and potential dissent from within their ranks. Samuel Beaver, the federal government affairs manager for the Brewers Association and a veteran in government relations, provides insight into the ongoing processes. With a career spanning over 15 years in both the House and Senate, Beaver emphasizes the importance of these discussions. The reconciliation process is not merely about numbers, it's about aligning priorities that reflect the needs of our constituents while navigating the broader political landscape. He noted, "The implications of this budget proposal extend beyond mere fiscal considerations. It also serves as a litmus test for the Republican Party's unity and effectiveness in governance. As they gear up for negotiations, the party faces pressure not only to deliver on fiscal responsibility but also to address key issues that resonate with their voter base, such as tax reform and social welfare programs." Looking ahead, the outcome of this budget reconciliation process will likely influence the political climate as midterm elections approach. A successful passage could bolster Republican confidence and set the tone for future legislative initiatives, while failure to unite around a coherent budget could deepen divisions within the party and diminish their standing among voters. As Congress continues its work, stakeholders from various sectors, including those in the brewing industry, will be closely monitoring developments. Recognizing that the decisions made in the coming weeks could have lasting impacts on the economy and legislative framework for years to come. In a significant legal development, the United States Supreme Court has called for additional briefs in a contentious case involving the constitutionality of the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force USPSTF, a body within the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS). This case, which has the potential to reshape the landscape of health policy and government authority, follows oral arguments presented just days prior and underscores the complexities surrounding the HHS Secretary's power in appointing task force members. The court's order, issued late Friday, directs both the federal government and the challengers to submit new briefs by May 5, focusing specifically on the extent of the HHS Secretary's appointment authority. Central to this case is the USPSTF. An independent panel established under the Affordable Care Act of 2010 tasked with making recommendations on preventive services that must be covered by private health insurers at no extra cost to patients. The roots of the case trace back to a lawsuit filed in 2020 by a group of individuals and small businesses in Texas. They objected to the mandate requiring insurers to cover pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP medications, which are highly effective in preventing HIV. The plaintiffs argued that providing access to these medications contravened their religious beliefs, claiming it encouraged homosexual behavior, intravenous drug use, and sexual activity outside of marriage. Moreover, they contended that the structure of the USPSTF was unconstitutional, as its members are not appointed by the President or confirmed by the Senate. Lower courts sided with these arguments, prompting the Supreme Court to accept the case earlier this year. In defending the USPSTF, the government asserts that the HHS Secretary has sufficient control over the task force members, including the ability to remove them at will, an argument that attempts to clarify their accountability and appointment mechanism. However, during the oral arguments, justices, particularly Justice Neil Gorsuch, expressed skepticism regarding the HHS Secretary's actual authority to appoint task force members. This skepticism has led the court to seek further clarification on this pivotal issue, indicating the justice's ongoing interest in the matter. The court has also instructed both parties to explore historical precedents, specifically two 19th-century cases, United States v. Hartwell 1868 and United States v. Smith 1888, which pertain to the definition of officers of the United States. These references suggest that the justices are grappling with foundational questions about the balance of power between the executive branch and independent regulatory bodies. As the Supreme Court navigates these complex legal waters, the implications of its ruling could extend far beyond the immediate case. A decision favoring the challengers could set a precedent that impacts the structure of similar task forces, potentially undermining the authority of the HHS and reshaping the implementation of public health policies. Conversely, a ruling that upholds the government's position could reinforce the existing framework of independent health advisory bodies and their role in policymaking. As the legal landscape evolves, stakeholders across the health sector are closely monitoring the Supreme Court's deliberations. The outcome of this case will not only determine the fate of the USPSTF but may also influence future health policy initiatives and the extent of government intervention in public health issues. With briefs due soon, attention will turn to how both sides articulate their positions on these critical questions of authority, accountability, and constitutional interpretation. The court's decision, expected later this year, could herald significant changes in the relationship between health policy and constitutional law, a development that will undoubtedly resonate in both legal and public health communities.